So I made a mistake yesterday and I didn't actually film through the combat section of the video, so that's why I have a new character all of a sudden. Um, so I have gathered all the materials I need to make this character's weapon. So let's go ahead and make that. It's going to be a little bit different from the duelist weapons, has different materials. So for this character, he just needs a Book of Archon, which is 12 wood in total. So we're just going to assemble that. Go ahead and make it. And then we're going to equip that. And I'm just going to right click to throw that into his combat slot. And let's go ahead and head over and show you the basics of combat. So the first thing you probably need to know about doing combat is that you have a harvesting tray and a combat tray. So right now I'm in the harvesting tray. You see my tools. I can do that dodge roll forward, and actually I still have that in the combat as well, so though some characters have a different option there. You can see the number 8 icon allows me to recall. So now I'm going to switch over to the combat tray, and what the combat tray does is you see that I pull my weapon out and I'm ready to do damage now. Now there's a couple differences between the combat tray and the survival tray, other than just the ability to do damage. So if you notice my movement speed right now, it's pretty fast in the survival tray, but when I hit that U to switch to my ranged tray, I move much slower, unless I use stamina to go ahead and sprint like this. And even then I think it tends to be a little bit slower, and you don't really want to burn your stam if you don't have to. The other difference is that you can see I haven't even used my book yet, but the durability has taken damage. That's because as long as I'm in combat tray, my combat gear is taking durability damage. And it's not very fast, but if you leave yourself AFK or something with your combat tray out, you're going to lose all of your durability. So you really want to make sure when you're playing in the combat tray or when you're doing combat, that you go ahead and you switch out as soon as you're done killing something. So the way that you switch back to your survival tray is you can either re-hit the key for the combat tray you're in this case I have to hit U, or you can just hit H, which is the survival tray, and that will bring you back to the survival tray as well. Now before I really get too much into the farming, there's a couple things that I can do to make it a little bit easier on myself. So first off, if you look in these chests, there's bandages in there. And there's also a little bit of meat. So you can go ahead and loot these chests around these campfires, and it's really going to help you out in terms of being easier to farm up to the proper level. The other thing that you probably want to do is this campfire is actually a cooking device, and you can use it to cook the meat. So let's go ahead and we're going to throw this meat on the fire. We're going to go to cooking, campfire cooking recipes, basic roasted meat. So we throw a little bit of meat in there, assemble, there we go. So we'll be able to use this food to feed ourselves while we're fighting, which is important because if you look at the hunger bar, you see bones and you see drumsticks. A drumstick is full food, a bone is an empty food meter. If you get down below 3 empty food slots, then you stop regenerating mana or whatever your resource is, and you stop regenerating health when you're out of combat. Usually when you're in your survival tray, you're regenerating resources, and when you're in your combat tray, you're using resources. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to skip forward a little bit. I'm going to do some leveling. I'm going to kill some of these mobs. I'll drag that there so it's a little bit easier to access. So now I can just hit 5 to bandage myself. Oh, actually, before I do that, let's take some damage. You can see these mobs that you're starting out with are pretty weak. They don't do very much damage to you. Especially if you kite it with a class like the Confessor or the Duelist. you're not going to take a huge amount of damage. But, so now that I've taken that damage, I'm going to show you how to use these bandages that I gathered. We're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the 5 slot. And because I'm standing still, I'm using the bandage. If I go ahead and move, it cancels the bandage. So you don't want to move around while you're bandaging. You want to stay still until you've done the entire bandage action, because you're going to get that debuff there, recently bandaged, on the right hand side, and that's going to prevent you from healing yourself up with bandages until that debuff is gone. And now that we've killed a couple things, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to skin them. It's a lot like when we were logging and gathering the stone. You just aim at the bodies and hold down your left click. And you saw that I looted them before I skinned them. That's because you can't skin an animal until it's been looted. So always make sure to loot before you skin. Or get some meat, get some hide, and that's all going to be useful later. So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and skip forward to when this character's got as much experience as he can from leveling off of these rank 1 spiders. So now we've went ahead and we've reached level 3, which is about as fast or about as far as you're going to get from these spiders while you're leveling quickly. You could push another level here, but you really slow down after that level. As a side note, if you're still picking a class to play, this Confessor is probably the fastest I've ever gotten to 3. They really do some damage. Kind of cool class. But anyway, off of that side note, I've got ahead and I've reached 3, so now I've got some points to spend. And I could have done this even as soon as I reached level 2, but you can see I've got attribute points and I've got talent points. So for a Confessor, you can see that you get a lot from investing in their intelligence. They've got attack power, critical hit damage, healing modifier, and it's a damage bit focused class. So this is probably the stat you're going to care about most. So I'm just going to go ahead and put all of the points into intelligence, because your secondary stats, you're really not going to worry about that kind of thing until you've got like a blue vessel or something. You always kind of want to put your points into your primary stat. So then let's go ahead and look at our talent. So we've got 4 talent points to spend, and we can get new abilities. So I just grabbed a new ability there by leveling that up, and I also can grab some passives. So I've got a choice here between physical resistance and critical hit chance. I like the damage of this guy, so we're just going to feed into that harder. So essentially, as you level up, you're going to grab new passives, you're going to grab new active abilities. I highly suggest on your first character, grab all the active abilities for your character. And that's so that you can test them all. When you're making a second character, you know, say you really like the Confessor and you've reached a max level on a white vessel and you want to go back and you want to make a stronger Confessor with a blue or a orange vessel. At that point, you might say, you know, when I was leveling up, I really didn't like X ability. I really don't see myself slotting it on my bar of active abilities. And so you can save yourself a point there. But while you're leveling up the first time, it's good to test all those abilities. Dare to fail, because this isn't a permanent vessel. It's something that you can learn from. So make some mistakes in terms of making the build, just so you can test out all aspects of the build. So once you've gone ahead and you've invested your talent points, you can slot it into your skill bar. You just go ahead, open that up, and oh, there we go. Flames of Truth. And you see it's already on there. If it wasn't on there, or if I wanted to slot it into a different slot, say I want it in slot number 5. You see I just drug it out, drug a new one in. That simple. You can also grab passives. If I put this passive in there, it's going to make it so my abilities cost less mana. So there you go. That's all it takes to start advancing your character. And we'll go back to the original videos that I filmed now.